City Planning and Zoning Board of Thursday, February the 6th. Will now come to order. Preliminary matters today. Do we have any agenda additions or deletions?
Mr. Chairman, the staff has none.
Seeing none, we'll move on to approval of last meeting's minutes. Has anybody, everybody's read them and seeing any discrepancies we need to address?
Good to me.
Seeing none, I'm looking for a motion.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
It's been moved in second. Any discussion? Approval of last month's meeting minutes. We now have the portion of our agenda today is to have public comment. And if there's anybody has something other than, my suggestion to you, you can come up under public comment and speak, or you can wait till your item comes up and then speak additionally if you'd like to. Or you can speak both times, okay? So it's up to y'all. If there's public comment of something that's not necessarily on our agenda, then you can come up now and speak, and we'd like to hear you. Seeing none, we'll close the public comment session. I didn't open it. I should open it. Now I closed it. Okay, forgive me. All right. The first item for public comment on our quasi-judicial is an application submitted by MBV Engineering to allow the construction of a 1,679 square foot, 3-story building addition for Vero Beach Theater Guild as a conditional use, number SP130009. The location of that is 2020 San Juan Avenue. Staff, first of all, are the disclosure by city council members, do we have any information that's relevant? We do not. So we have no disclosure there. The swearing in of applicants, staff, and all witnesses collected by city council. And Sherry will do that.
If anybody's going to testify, if you'll stand and be sworn in, please.
In the audience also, if you're going to speak or swear in.
Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Thank you.
Are there any exhibits? If there are, please bring them to our clerk if you wish to have anything entered in. Officially, I think they just set them down front. Is that right? Yeah, okay. What would you like? You can sit them down front. It's for your convenience, really.
I haven't seen that in a while.
Okay.
No.
We'll put them later. We'll put the chairs later. Okay.
Okay. That's good.
Maybe I'll get Robert up here.
Staff's presentation, Tim.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, Ms. Lafferty will provide the staff presentation.
This project is for the Theater Guild, and the theater was originally approved as a cultural activity in 1985, and that was a conditional use in the R1A zoning district. Prior to that, the site was a church. And they're proposing this addition is going to be utilized for the dressing rooms, prop storage, costume storage, and I believe also rehearsal space. And in conjunction with this proposed addition, the applicant is proposing to reduce the number of seats in the theater from 322 to 299, along with other interior modifications. Parking lot and landscaping improvements to the theater are also proposed. And you'll find in the review, attachment A provides the report for the project fact sheet, and also with the site plan and the proposed landscape improvements. There was a required neighborhood meeting that was held October 17th, 2013, which was attended by the applicant and members of the individuals involved with the Theater Guild. And we're bringing this to you.
Was there anybody there from the neighborhood that showed up?
No one was there from the neighborhood.
Was this the traditional 500-foot notice? I mean, how many notices
Yes,
went out?
it's a 500-foot notice for that they do that prior to submittal, yes.
And no response from the neighborhood?
No response, and then another one sent out when the application is ready to go to hearing. We sent another one out to property owners within 500 feet.
Have we had any other communication from any of the
Not-
people other than
not
that
anything.
meeting? Nothing.
And these
Nothing.
went to property owners, not necessarily the occupants.
That's correct.
Thank you.
There probably aren't very many within 500 feet, are they? Are they all to the west?
No, you have most of them are public ownership, the county and that, but there are subdivisions in the area. So.
And we're bringing this to you because this is a conditional use application, and we have to review it for provisions specific to the conditional uses. And in section 61.04, it says that the project can be only approved by the Planning and Zoning Board, provided that it is so designed, located, and proposed to be operated so that the public health, safety, and welfare are protected. And also, there's the provision that just because the project meets the code requirements, that if the Planning and Zoning Board wishes to put additional conditions on the approval, that you can. The first criteria that we reviewed this for was if the proposed conditional use will create noise, traffic, odor, or other nuisances to be disruptive to the surrounding properties. And we found that at this site, there's non-residential uses on three sides. The theater has existed for 30 years there, and we know of no code complaints from the surrounding properties. And the proposed addition is not going to affect the seating capacity of the theater, since there is going to be the reduction of the seats from 322 to 299. And staff finds that this proposed project will not create any odor, noise, or traffic that will be disruptive to the abutting or nearby properties. And the second criteria that we reviewed is if the scale of the proposed conditional use is determined to be inconsistent with the existing or anticipated development in the vicinity. So we're supposed to look at the bulk, the height, open space, and the number of new vehicle trips per day and peak hours. And the proposed addition is located on the east side of the building, which is faces the county administration building. And the addition is just slightly higher than the west side of the building. And we feel it's going to continue the pattern that's established in this area. And they have more than the required open space on this site. And the peak traffic will be decreased because the number of seats will be decreased. And we find that the scale of the proposed addition is not inconsistent with the existing development or future anticipated development in the vicinity.
I do have a question there. Can I ask it now or later? Now? Okay. You've got Old Vero Man's site there now. What kind of the archaeological dig?
That's
in the back of the-
further up the canal.
I realize that. Does this impact this in any way whatsoever? I'm
No.
not familiar
Why
with archaeological sites. Okay.
No.
There's not a certain amount set aside, and okay.
No,
thank
it's
you.
outside the archaeological zone. But remember, they also have the Indian River, the farms.
Farms,
that's all
right.
right away along there.
Right.
Outside our jurisdiction.
Okay.
I had a question on that. Your cover letter talks about parking, 77 parking spaces, I believe it was, on city-owned land across the street. But the diagram we're looking at now talks about Indian River Farms land.
It's both the Indian River County farm lands and the property right across the street from.
Can you show us where the city-owned land was? I wasn't aware of any over there.
Ours is across the street. It's not shown.
It's the grass area just immediately to the south across the street.
The island.
A few palm trees around the perimeter.
Right.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
It's right here. Matter of fact, if you can see right in there, that's it.
Use my imagination.
Yes. Won't go very far, but you can use it. One of my best friends right here, so.
Okay. And we also have to review for section 61.05, which is specific provisions for the cultural activities. And cultural activities are permitted provided the proposed site has an existing conditional use for either an educational institution or a place of worship. This shows that this is a non-conforming use under the code. And in doing our researching, it was determined that the theater was approved as a cultural activity in 1985, and that there was not a requirement at that time that it be associated with a church or an educational institution. In 1986, there was an ordinance, 86-43, that incorporated the provisions tying it to those two uses. But despite this restriction, there were many additions to the theater through the 1990s, and we were unable to find anything in the records to provide any insight onto these decisions. And based on these previous governmental actions, staff believes the theater is vested from the provisions of Section 61.05C, and the owners have relied on these past approvals in making improvements to the facilities. Therefore, it would be unfair for the city to deny the application based on this section. And staff fully intends to address this oversight when they make future revisions to the code to address this. And staff finds that a strong case for vesting on this property and basic fairness dictate that the theater, as an approved cultural activity, not be subject to the provisions of Section 61.05C as applied in this situation.
Gail, a question here too.
Sure.
You can't find the records to support, why these variances were given. But can you tell us what variances were given?
They gave variances on the setback side of the property. When they expanded the building, they gave some setback
Okay, so
things.
basically-
And they were doing expansions at the time. I think our biggest problem is I didn't have any staff report. They may have, when they did this, felt that it met that condition.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't have the knowledge. I don't have the staff here. I could only, as just been here 8 years now, was not here, so I'm only
So
guessing.
the north side, they would have been
Yeah.
dealing with the Indian River Farms Water Control District. That was a variance there, or?
Well, no, they can get, they still have they got a variance from their rear setback. That's what they were getting, or sides on that case. Yeah. So they had a setback, so they expand the building near their property line. Okay, and they were getting additions to the building also at that time to do those setbacks, everything from restrooms to that. So clearly, we don't think the intent was to come, this is probably the only conditional use set in the city like this. So I got to believe it's an oversight, or they were much more liberal in their interpretation of the code. So therefore, we did not have a problem. I had to address it and bring it up to you, and
Right.
but I do not have a problem
Well,
here.
it's always worrisome too, isn't it,
Yeah.
that this would set a precedent, but
Yeah.
you're not
No, it
identifying
won't.
that.
Well, none of your
Yeah.
conditional uses set precedents.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
I mean, I think the government action that was taken previously did set a precedent for what the city,
Yeah.
how they applied the code to that. So therefore, we believe we don't have a problem moving forward, and we're going to clean up the code at this point
And it's not
to
an
address
impediment.
this.
Yeah.
And as we point out, this project is certainly a benefit for the whole community. It's not having any adverse impacts and all this. It's it's beyond having to rethink this, and I don't think it's a. an issue.
Because of how it sits and how San Juan Avenue
Mm-hmm.
comes in, and there's a stop sign here, and there's a fence over here. Was that part of the variance in, the transportation?
I don't recall that being part of the variance.
Uh-huh.
All they were looking at is the building on site, and that was my understanding. There were 2 or 3 variances given out. I'd have to at the time they made a couple modifications, but that was what they were talking about.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I understand we'll probably never be able to document or clean up those variances, but I was going to ask if we could legitimize the use, and you said,
Oh, yeah, I don't have a problem.
Plan to do that. How is
Well,
that
no,
gonna
I'm just
work?
going to clean the code up so it probably says an existing conditional use or something to that regard. I mean, this is the only one, I think, in the
Not a-
city.
not
I
a
mean, remember,
cultural
most of the other
activity?
conditional uses we have, other than daycare, and almost, I don't know if they're even standalone, almost all of them are in either a religious facility.
Well, either
And
way,
that's-
they requested a permit and they got a permit. So
That's
they're
correct. It was
legally-
more than a
Yeah.
variance.
Right.
They also got development approvals. It
Right.
wasn't just the development approval for a variance. They also were getting,
They're in compliance.
yeah.
Is
Yeah.
this different zoning than, say, the Italian American Club or the Newport Club or the Garden Club or
I think that's
any
in the
of those
RM10
cultural?
Yeah, that's in a slightly different district.
Yeah,
And
they're
trying to.
residential.
Yeah.
And also, we reviewed the site plan for section 64.10, which all the various departments and county departments reviewed the site plan. And based on the above analysis and findings, staff finds that the proposed site plan meets the provisions for the site plan and conditional use approval and recommends approval of the site plan and conditional use subject to the following conditions, which you find on page 4 and 5 of the memo.
Anybody have any questions of staff at this time? Seeing none, we'll ask then that the applicant come up if you'd like to make a presentation. Please give us your name and address, if you would, please. And it'd be helpful if you gave us the firm also.
Absolutely. Todd Howder, MBV Engineering, 1835 20th Street, civil engineers representing the folks on this project. They did a fantastic job discussing what's going on. You see it before you, so I will not bore you with too many of the site details, because I do want to turn this over to Mark too, so you can actually hear from the president of the group here. He has some very nice words to say. With, again, Gail and Tim did a great job explaining what's happening. This is a 3-story addition. Again, it's not adding more seats. It's actually supporting their staff because they're so cramped over there and there's quarters that they need room to expand so they can properly get fitted for the events and whatnot. Through this process, we're actually bringing the site up to compliance on several standards. One, we've got some driveway modifications we're doing for the radiuses for the fire department to meet latest fire department codes. That helps ingress, egress for the trucks, God forbid the event should happen.
Would you say that again, please? I didn't quite understand.
Yeah, the driveway entrance locations, we're actually revising the radiuses to create an additional
Okay.
radius,
Nice.
and that actually provides a better turning movement should
Okay.
a fire truck have to get in there and move in and about. The stormwater, we worked with the Public Works Department. We have taken care of the stormwater requirements. Good thing with this project, the building is actually going over mostly impervious area. There's parking and drive there right now. So as I like to say, the invisible hand pulls out the asphalt and puts the building right on top. So the overall net increase of impervious area we're doing is only 670 square feet. So we worked with Bill Messersmith, and we actually are modifying and expanding the existing stormwater system, which is in compliance with all jurisdictional regulations, to accommodate another 1 inch, actually another 1.5 inches of runoff to make sure that's taken care of. All
You
the
mind if I ask,
stormwater. Yeah.
right now, you're in compliant with stormwater management, and when this is done, there'll be no water leave your site. It'll be all contained on your site.
It'll be
Is that
contained
correct?
until
up to
it-
1.5 inches.
Yeah, until it meets its proper conditions with stormwater requirements, then it can outfall.
Okay.
Those requirements are St. John's, Indian River Farms, boy, we're right next door to them, as well as the city. They have their own requirements.
Okay.
So that'll all being within the compliance. Stormwater still goes to the same place it goes now. There's no alteration or direction of taking it and pushing it somewhere else. It all goes to the same system. Landscaping is the next big thing that we're doing. The site already has some very nice, well-established landscape and canopy trees within the property, around the property. What we're doing is bringing that up to code compliance. If you have, I don't know if you have your sheets in front of you, but on sheet C5 is our proposed landscape plan. What you see in the light gray faded area, that's the existing landscape. Now, granted, the symbols look a little small, but that's not representative of what's there. They've got some really beautiful oak trees all around the property. We are coming in and doing what we call infill landscaping to meet today's current code regulations with the city. That's a continuous shrub hedge throughout the perimeter of the property. They already do have some hedging right up front, but we're coming in, and where they don't have it, we are putting those shrubs in. We're also bringing in some more tree canopies. The site was in deficit of a few trees, a little bit more than a few trees, so we are actually adding more trees to this site along the perimeter front, along the east side, some along the west. So we're actually enhancing the landscaping of this property. That is really for the project that we get involved with is simplistic as what's coming in. It's got a fantastic site already. I do have the architect here as well. You see in front, well, you may not be able to, but these folks had the very beautiful drawings that they're coming up with this project. It's going to be a very nice enhancement to this building. But before, and I will remain available for questions. I'll stand right here. Anything building related, we have Mr. Hayden Curtis from Tony Donadio and Associates. But I would like to bring Mark up now so you can actually hear from a Theater Guild rep if
If
that's
you'd
okay.
set them on that chair right there, I mean, that might help both Robin and
Yes, you
everybody
guys
else
could-
to see them a little bit.
yeah, get a
on the
good
back
look
of it,
at
so we
it.
can see most of it. Push it back, and yes, we can see better.
Yeah,
Can I ask you a couple questions really quick?
absolutely, sure.
You mentioned the hedging, and especially around the access egress. I've noticed myself, if you don't drive a pimp Escalade, sometimes it's difficult to see around the hedging. And I hope our codes aren't encouraging that, or that I hope that you take that in consideration.
Yeah,
The
actually,
line
we're-
of sight kind of
Yeah,
thing.
you just said it. It's a line of sight triangle that we deal with, and when a car actually is getting ready to, ingress or egress out onto a drive, that driver has clear distance, especially for this site and your code. We've done other projects with your code. You guys address that, making sure that wherever the car is egressing, they've got line of sight.
I run into that a lot. As a matter of
I have
fact,
too. I have myself too.
The 2001 building. So
Yeah.
Other
an
one-
accident waiting to happen. And I had one more item. The condition number, the last condition, I don't know if I've noticed that before, but it requires as-built survey. Is that boilerplate? Is that
That's
in all of
required
them?
under the building code. We were just remiss previously to put in, we've been doing it all the new
Okay,
ordinance you see.
and that isn't a problem on an old.
Standard operating
standard.
procedure on every municipality. Absolutely.
Okay,
You got to
great.
have an
Thank you.
as-built.
Got a real quick question. And my copy is 11 by 15, small. But on the new, what I noticed on the north side, that whole north property edge, those new trees, are they located under utility line? Is that a utility line?
There is an overhead line that goes back to a certain point.
Yeah, it's hard to see
It actually
on this.
goes along there. I will say the trees that we have directly under, it's a smaller canopy. There's some drake elms that they
Okay.
don't get as big as oak trees. We do have a live oak proposed, but it's not directly underneath the power line.
That's the only thing I
Yeah. No, absolutely. Thank you. And we can actually work. I'm looking at right now. We have one in the corner. We can pull that back. We've even worked with staff before with make sure we meet the canopy tree requirement, but maybe a different species that doesn't quite get up to that level, but still gets the proper canopy. So, all right. If you guys don't mind, do you have any questions?
One, a couple of things I noticed. If the people that live at 2050 seem to me to be the only people that would have a
Here.
direct impact at all. That's to the left, as you say, is
Yeah.
the property, and they're on San Juan. If we didn't hear from them at all, you're right there. Okay. Then I'd like to have you have the time to come up and speak if you would later. Just I'd like to hear input from you. I'm sorry. Then that question's answered right now. I'll get it answered. The other thing I'm looking at here is what's against the trees. I'm a big proponent of landscaping to make our community look better, and I see that you're in compliance, and that's wonderful. And I would like to see some practicality in where we plant the trees also, like planting them under lines. I mean, I see our county and our state sometimes putting them up and 4 years later cutting them down. It just doesn't make a lot of sense. I mean, if we, in the spread on them sometimes, I hope that the inspector of that time will give you some leeway to make proper decisions for longevity of some of these plants that we're putting out there. And I see that you're putting up 20 new trees according to the calculations I have, and 260 some new shrubs.
Correct.
So I think it will enhance it. When I looked at the property, it is well landscaped and groomed now. So And I know this, the people here would want to maintain that and continue that.
As a staff comment, I want to say those are really good comments there. The urban forestry, I think, with the University of Florida, or that institute provides guidelines on that, and we'll, as staff, we'll try to make sure we look at that more closely on these, and give some recommendations. But it's a good point.
I have two other questions for you, if I may. On the small site plan tonight, we get reduced size, and then when we come to the meeting, we get the biggies, okay? But behind the property, the existing building, it shows a lot of existing parking. That doesn't really exist, does it? It's futuristic or a possibility?
Yeah, it's futuristic if they ever had a need. So far, they haven't had it a need, but yet it's futuristic. That does not exist.
Okay.
Yeah.
So most of the people, when we come to I've only been to several. I've been to several shows there. We usually parked out in the center area on the grass. Is that correct, Nate?
Correct.
So it's that parking absorbs the water pretty much itself.
It does.
And there's no drainage required on that to meet compliance, right? Even though it's city property.
When we have rarely used parking, which is like churches, you'll see that we allow this kind of parking. Okay. We have that overflow.
So there's no stormwater requirement
Not on
special
this,
for that?
no, because it's all left that way.
Okay. I don't have any other questions right now. Anybody else have questions? The applicant?
Looks good.
Okay.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Can I actually bring Mark up to say a few
Come on.
words? Is this
We'd
proper time?
love to hear from you.
Good afternoon. Mark Wygonik, representing the Vero Beach Theater Guild. I'm president, 2020 San Juan Avenue.
Sir, you were sworn in, correct? Were you
Yes,
sworn
I
in?
was.
Okay,
Yes,
thank you.
From its inception in 1958, the Vero Beach Theater Guild has always had a warm and loving relationship with the city of Vero Beach. In the 60s, the Guild performed at various venues around the city, including the Women's Club and the old Vero Beach High School. In the 70s, thanks to assistance from the city and donations from many city residents, the Guild was able to build a beautiful facility at Riverside Park. In the 80s, after Riverside decided to go the professional route, the Theater Guild, chartered as a community theater, moved to San Juan Avenue and renovated the empty church building. Further renovations in the 90s expanded our stage and auditorium, and in doing so, we were able to produce more complex shows for our community. With an average of 270 volunteers helping us each year, we touch the artistic lives of tens of thousands of city and county residents, and we are a large proponent of the cultural influx of tourism that makes Vero Beach so unique. Over the past 28 years, since our relocation to San Juan Avenue, our main focus has been on keeping our patrons, our audience, happy. But the lifeblood of the Guild is our volunteers. We have subjected them to cramped, crowded, and antiquated workspaces and dressing rooms, and that certainly does not encourage creative excellence. We have rented storage units all over town to house a growing number of costumes and props, spending almost $20,000 a year, money that could stay within the theater. We rent additional space, sometimes at private clubs, at churches, at individuals' homes, in an effort to rehearse a show that is in progress. We are in desperate need of our own space, something that can give us the dressing rooms, rehearsal space, and storage space necessary to continue. This space will benefit the volunteers whose presence is already a part of the Guild and allow others an opportunity to experience the magic of theater production. We are proud that we have survived and thrived for 56 years here in the city. But for us to move forward with bigger and better productions, with workshops that teach theater craft to the community, and with a cultural outlet for all our community's residents to participate in, we need this expansion. Thank you.
Mark, I just have one question of you.
Surely.
And it was stated earlier that you've removed some seats from your theater. Did you do that what was the purpose behind removing the seats? May I ask that?
That's a good question. Well, we had to have some handicapped accessibility when we moved. The church, the theater was a church, and when we renovated in the early '90s, we raked the floor and we added proper seating, and then we had to, as times changed, I guess. compliances change, and we had to add handicap seating, and so we had to remove some seats to allow for wheelchairs, et cetera. And so, we are now at that number that we're at the moment.
It was not because you needed more space and you're taking some, so it wasn't a part of the building process?
Oh,
at all?
no,
Okay.
it wasn't
all I
that.
was concerned
Yeah, no.
Sure, Mark.
Mark, I think you've done a wonderful job here, and I fully intend to support it. But I hope you'll save a couple $100 to join the new Vero Beach Chamber of Commerce.
Editorial.
Okay, well, we'll bring it up at our board meeting and vote on it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Does anybody
Any
else have
further
questions of Mark?
questions? Thank you.
No, thank you, Mark.
It's Mark.
Yeah, they probably got a lot of me.
Would anybody else like to speak? Please come forward. Would you like to speak, sir?
Do you want to open the public hearing?
Oh, yeah, open it to public hearing, so anybody who would like to speak, please come forward. You're welcome to.
Speak from my seat, please. I have trouble getting around.
If you'll pass them, can you get them a microphone? We can hear you.
We have a mobile. Just a second.
We'll take care of it.
And the rock star mic. I don't believe he was sworn.
Was he sworn in?
Here you go, sir.
Sir, were you sworn in? Were you sworn in?
No.
Then you please stand and swear in. We can't.
You don't have to stand.
You don't have to stand. You can sit. Forgive me. Yes. Okay.
You'll just raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, I do.
Thank you.
I'm Carl Elliott. I've lived at 2050 San Juan Avenue since 1987. I've been there 27 years. And I guess they were there 2 years before I moved there. But they've been great neighbors, and I'm their only neighbor, and we get along fine. So there's no problem with me with this expansion. It's more power to them.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That was very appreciated.
Hi, Carl. I didn't recognize you.
Anybody else wishing to speak? Please come forward. Seeing nobody else, I will close the public hearing. For discussion, board? Any
None
discussion?
from me.
Are we ready to take a
All
vote
their
then?
Homework.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve this. This is an asset in our community, and I'm so proud of what they do.
Just
Do
make
you
it.
want to include the conditions as well?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I'll
As
second it.
As amended?
Yeah.
And there was one other thing you all discussed, being cognizant of the landscaping. I don't know if you wanted to include that.
I don't know that I can. I think that they have to abide by the plan as it's laid out, but some inspectors give them discretion to use a little bit. So it's up to
I think they're willing to. I don't
Yes.
think you need to add
Well,
that. I
sometimes
would
they-
like you make your recommendation based on the staff findings.
Yeah.
Because you're-
All right.
Exactly,
that's-
yeah.
So amended.
As amended.
Do we have a second then?
Second.
My,
It's been seconded. The only discussion I'd like to have now is I would also like to comment. I think you're a fine asset to our community, and myself and my family would like to say that we're glad you're here. We hope we can do everything we can to support you, and we'd also like to say that as long as it doesn't impact your neighbors and the people around you, keep going. And I really think it's a real positive thing, and I just can't get enough of that, because one of the reasons a lot of people chose Vero Beach is that type of facility being here and the talent that shows up there and talent that participates in that. So I think all our board feels the same way, that we're very much in favor of you. Thank you.
I add that at least one of our mayors has been on our stage.
I won't hold that against you now, okay? I don't know which one it is.
that would have been very bad.
With that, is there any, we're ready to vote?
Yeah,
Yes.
I'm ready.
Ms. Polensky?
Yes.
Mr. Mucher?
Yes.
Mrs. Manous?
Yes.
Mr. Lawfer?
Yes,
4-0.
Job.
The next item to come before us today is Thank you. We'll just pause for a minute, let this. Yeah, we didn't mess these up.
Let's wait.
Yeah, we'll just wait a minute. We'll give them time to.
He looks familiar. I don't keep it.
I know you're deserting me, huh?
Back to him.
It's not going to be appealing.
I didn't realize that many volunteers
Yeah, it's all
involved.
volunteer, I
That's
think.
huge. 275.
I mean, have you been there?
Oh yeah,
Oh, yeah.
many
It's-
times. I
yeah.
just didn't know there were that many
I
volunteers.
haven't been there I don't know if they have. Is this season opened yet? I haven't been there this year.
Yeah, they're open.
Okay, they pretty well cleared out. We'd like to proceed then. The next item to come before us is an ordinance of the City of Vero Beach, Florida, updating the capital improvement schedule of the comprehensive plans capital improvement element for the year 2013/14-2017-18, provided for an effective date.
Oh, Mr. Chairman, I'll make this kind of brief. This is we're required each year by the Chapter 163 Florida statutes to approve our capital improvement schedule or amend it as necessary, and it's basically is for those improvements, capital improvements that are for maintaining, sustaining the comprehensive plan. So you're talking about roads, storm drainage, water and sewer. And those type of school facilities and parks and recreation, those kind of facilities. Last year we didn't do this. There is no penalty if we don't do it, but I think it's good for us to get into the habit of doing this. We really need to update the entire capital improvements element of the plan. I'm going to work with Cindy, and maybe we can do that. My problem is I don't have a lot of staff, so it'll take some work. There's all the numbers change in there, so it's a little more difficult. But what you have before us represents the capital budget of the city. Those projects over $100,000, and those projects that total $100,000. There'll be multiple year projects like stormwater drainage projects. So this was adopted by the City Council. This is still currently in place. We've also included the school district's capital budget, which we're to do. We have an agreement with the school district and other jurisdictions on approving that, and we also have the elements from the county's comprehensive plan that deal with roads, because obviously the roads in the county do affect our concurrency levels of standards of service levels, and we also have the Metropolitan Transportation Planning Organization's projects, which also affect our concurrency levels. So unless you have some questions of me, I mean, it is pretty rote, and there's not really a lot of change here. And I
would like to make one comment. There'll be a vote I'll be taking here shortly, and I will admit to anyone that I have no idea what I'm approving here. I'm going on, and I read it. I tried to read it, and I couldn't. It was just so boring, and it had so many numbers that I didn't really, truly, honestly get through it. So this vote will be. I'm winging it, and I'm counting on this to be a nothing, and that's what I'm voting it on.
You know, Mr. Chairman, all the statute says is the capital improvements element must be reviewed by the local government on an annual basis. So I think you're good. You reviewed it.
Yeah, not well, but I reviewed it.
And that's it. I mean, and we're doing it allows us by ordinance, but it doesn't technically amend the comp plan. So it doesn't have to go through. I mean, it's just a perfunctory operation we do in the city, and we have it there. Someday things may change, and there'll be a penalty, as there had been until they gutted the Growth Management Act.
Do we have to open this up for public comment then also?
Yes.
Okay.
It's a hearing.
Is there
Public
any
hearing.
members of the public that would like to comment on this? Seeing nobody of it coming forward, okay, then I recommend we close the public comment.
I have a comment.
Oh, and we do have a comment from our board member.
I have questions. Tim,
That's
haven't
somebody
we lowered
smart.
level of service
Somebody read
to?
Smart aleck.
Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Haven't we lowered levels of service to comply with certain things? Like
No, we've changed the level of service, which may be level, because if you recall, on A1A we have done a couple
came to my
exclusions,
mind.
so we have changed A1A level of service. Yes,
Now, are
but
there-
it's still level of service. The city
I know.
sets a level of service. But you're
Yeah.
right; it is a lower level of service
Right.
than the typical level of service D.
Exactly. Now, the thing is, it would be desirable to raise that level of service, obviously. So what's the chance of adding that on at some point in the future?
Well, the problem is to do that would require probably extra lanes in that highway. And that is not going to happen in our lifetime
Yeah,
on
not
the
on
Barrier
A1A.
Island. And that's why they hadn't done it. I think there are some critical points still. For instance, being a person living south of 17th Street, I can tell you that
Yeah.
when they did not make the two turning lane movements, we're having some real significant backups, and that is a deficient level of service at the intersection, but that is not a concurrency level of service. And the county doesn't. They look at that when we look at but it's not a level of service that you have to address as a level of service concurrency thing. So, but that is a problem there.
Yeah,
But
is that the only identifiable problem that you see right now?
well, there are problems in the middle all along A1A are some issues. So both the north section north of Beachland and the south of 17th have the level of service E plus whatever we did for that, but the middle is still D. But that probably may have a problem in the future too. But as I said, the alternatives, at least the traditional alternatives of construction, are just not going to happen.
Could they do?
if
We're talking that particular intersection, 17th and the and A1A. With that in mind, are there things they can do with signaling and things like that?
Yes,
to
they can
improve it?
do
Have
some.
they done
They
that?
can do some timing and optimization on that, and I think they were doing some. And I have to talk to Monty where they're at on that. But I think that the recommendation and had been the project was to have two turning lanes going left, north or left going west from the southbound, and then a through lane, as well as a lane to going off to on a right-hand turn lane which clear it up. I mean, today we had traffic that went way. I don't know if Peggy ran into it. It was way past the city limits to the south.
Right.
Really?
Right.
That's
Yeah.
And now
Yeah, I see
that
that.
St. Ed's is down to the south, that has caused some more
Yeah.
issues. So
Yeah.
that's. But you make choices, and so that's where we
Yeah,
stand.
because
right
I
now.
was looking at the list back here of the scheduled road improvements and the funding and all of
Right.
that, and I don't see anything in the city.
We don't have any.
No.
I think one thing that Monty and I have talked about is with the airport boulevard thing is a dead project right now. We'd like to
Right.
get that going again, and so there are a couple that we're also looking at. Getting the MPO to maybe fund a study to look at Fifth Avenue over there by
Miracle Mile.
Miracle Mile,
That's
because
gonna
that
be
would
huge.
really have a
huge.
very beneficial impact in those intersections. So.
But they have no money, right? They have,
Well,
they can go.
I
can
think
they draw
at this
down?
point in time, we can get some money to do some of look at the engineering feasibility. We'll do a comp plan amendment, and we'll look at getting some money. I mean, there's nothing that says that we could maybe get some development projects in there to chip in, because it would have a direct impact. And we know that's an important area, and certainly it's been a concern of the residents over there in that area, particularly, the impacts of these
Enhanced
projects.
development can actually improve the traffic flow.
Exactly. Yes.
Because they
So, but our problem is, as Ms. Manous pointed out, we're low on any. There are a lot of projects. We'll never have any money necessarily
Yeah.
for any of our projects, and we have to look at different ways to get projects or other types of money available.
Gas tax, sales
Yeah.
tax,
We just
impact trees, federal funding. It's pretty
I know.
good.
We have to look for things as well as maybe assessments and that other kind of thing. It depends, and I talked about that for the twin pairs.
Yeah.
It may come down to if the city really wants to do twin pairs, assessments will have to be done, and I don't know. But anyway, that's where we stand right now.
Okay. Bear with me, please. A bunch of questions came up. On the impact fee 1, 2, and 3, what does the 1, 2, and 3 refer to? Districts.
Oh, those are the
Are
different
they
districts.
the same as the county commission? Do they correlate?
Yeah, no. The county. These are the county sets up the impact fee districts. Okay, so for the various projects. So when people, you get a building permit here, or that creates that you pay an impact fee when you get your permit.
Right,
Okay.
okay, but they refer to, funding codes. And
Yeah,
that's what I'm
and
looking at.
there are three different. In my understanding, there are three different districts. These are transportation projects you're talking about. I assume that's what we're talking.
Yes, locally funded.
Yeah, and they have three different districts. Okay.
Okay.
Well, you're really getting into this.
Well,
No, that's all right.
If we're paying impact fees, is the city getting a benefit on it? Is my
Well,
That's-
if you look at it as these are regional type projects that have impact on the city,
Yeah.
yes, we're getting some benefit. You know, whether we're getting the benefit we think we should get, it's similar to the bed tax. We generate more than 50-some% of the bed tax, and how much is coming into the city? That's always been an issue.
See, my whole
Yeah.
concern is, does Vero Beach have identified needs that are not being met? That's
Well, we
my
don't
concern
really
here.
have, other than a couple of the projects I just talked about, like Fifth Avenue, which is one that we have to move forward, or the Twin Pairs, if there's a commitment for that. We don't have a lot of these. We don't have some of the real capacity issues they have in some of the county segments of road. So that's why we don't score high.
It seems like to me a lot of the problems you're experiencing in some places because we're a seasonal community, and with that in mind, that same intersection is not nearly.
Well, and that's it. But they're supposed to take that into account when we do any of the concurrency is done during that. They take
The
that into
highest peak.
account. That's correct. Or the March or whatever.
Because
It's
this
like
time of year, I
15
get upset if I have to stop. In the summertime, I can just time the lights
Yes.
and go on through.
Yeah, so they look at that. But as I said, such as our on A1A, we've got so many constraints in A1A. Even though that's an issue, you're not going to see improvements other than maybe signalization and some turn, maybe some
lanes.
turning lanes or other things that could help. But they're
Yeah,
Yeah.
'cause that's itemized here. What do
Yeah.
you turn lanes at 16th Street?
yeah. So
Mark?
Are you done, honey?
Go ahead, Mark. Go ahead. We have another question back here.
The talk about A1A reminded me that if Don Cottrell was here, he'd probably propose an elevated school bus lane, like he proposed the elevated choo-choo lane. And I was at the choo-choo commission meeting the other day, and trying to discourage any expenditures on quiet zones, but then I asked the city manager if we did have expenditures on quiet zones, where would they come from? And he says, well, I don't really know because we're 4 years behind on our public works transportation projects. And I don't know if that's reflected here, but it goes along with what you were saying, that there just isn't any money.
well, those are a lot of
for
local
anything.
projects. Sidewalks, drainage, bridge repairs, and all that. So it adds up after a while. And
then the other comment I wanted to make is I remember, I guess it was 2 years ago because it wasn't last year, we went over this in some great detail and up in the training room, and we all decided, like you did, that this was way above our pay grade, but there was a long discussion on it, and as recently as back then, there was a lot of money in this capital improvement plan for the power plant. And I was glad to see there wasn't any in this one for the power
Well,
plant.
the last one, when you do the capital improvements element, you had to look at at that time they're looking at the sustainability, the financial capacity to sustain the comp plan. And I had to look at all the financial resources of the city. That's what you get into, because we were generating money out of into the fund, into our general fund. So I had to look at that.
Mm-hmm.
So, but none of the electric projects.
What changed?
No, if we were doing the capital improvement element, I would be going into that again. But what's changed is that the state requirements we don't have to demonstrate sustainability anymore or financial feasibility. I mean, it makes no sense, but why are you doing these things unless you do that? But that's basically it was taken out of it. But no, we would normally run through and at least provide those numbers, maybe not in that kind of detail, to show revenue that would be going into the general fund, which, as you can see in here, supports various capital projects, particularly the public works projects.
Go
Okay,
ahead, Mr.
I
Chairman.
found what I was looking for.
all right.
Under the general fund projects, the stormwater project?
Yes.
You've got stormwater outfalls projected and also Vero Isles outfalls. How is that being done? You've got 2 years of 100,000 each on for the Vero Isles outfall. What is that all about?
Well, they're making the improvements in the outfall. They're probably putting baffles and other things. I don't have Monty here to tell you the exact project, but I mean, these projects were all. I did a shortcut. I could have given you more detail on these, but the capital budget would describe the projects in a little more clarity, and I apologize. I thought this would be a slam dunk, let's get it done, but certainly if you have some questions, Bill Messerschmidt would be the guy to talk to directly.
There's so much emphasis on the Indian River Lagoon and stormwater,
well, and
all of that I'm just
we have an
curious what's being done.
NPDES, non-point pollution elimination system permit, and part of that has been upgrading all the outfalls, and there's a whole length period. I mean, it would probably behoove us in the long run to look at a storm drainage district.
Reversal?
That would be a quicker way to get these things done, but with the limited resources, financial resources, you have to take your time to upgrade these
Well,
things.
I think most of this information, there's a lot of, I've been through these things before, and there's a lot of things put in here that need to be done. And then it gets down to a function of let's prioritize these and let's see where the political is being driven by these things, and that will move them along. So what they have in here just says what we need and what we can afford and what we're going to do.
The city council has prioritized what they need. That's basically what their
they
5-year capital.
They should continue to reprioritize.
And they should do that. I mean, the thing that would be, if the system could go the way it should work, that I think would be a more preferable, is that you would have input prior to the budget process, moving the projects forward. That's in a utopia, but I have to make a lot of fundamental changes in relationships and the budgeting and all that. And to be honest with you, at this point in time, I got some other fish to fry, and so I kind of let that go by. But that would be the way it would be in a query would work, that you would be involved up front on these things. They would be going to council, and these are the priorities, and the council would still make the final decision. But here you didn't see these. They went to the council and the budget, and you don't have really a voice right now in the budget process. But we would have to incorporate that in the budget process, and eventually maybe we'll get there. We just haven't done that.
Okay, thank you.
Anything additional? Anybody else have any other questions? I'm looking for somebody to approve or disapprove this request. Make a motion. Honey?
So moved.
So moved. I need a second.
Second.
We have a second by Robin. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. It passes 4-0.
Hey, thanks, council.
Do you need a roll call on that one?
I will give you one.
I probably should do it just
Okay.
to be safe. Ms. Polinsky?
Yes.
Mr. Mucher?
Yes.
Mrs. Manus?
Yes.
Mr. Lawfer?
Yes. Thank you. Under Planning Department matters. we
Okay,
need-
I have several items to go
Okay.
over with you. Okay, the first, Linda and I, Hillman and I have gotten together and talked about an appropriate meeting date or dates. And Linda is, we agreed at 6 o'clock, an evening meeting, because they do have working families to be able to go to the meeting. We're talking about next month, March, it'd be a Thursday or Friday, the 20th and the 21st, or Thursday, Friday, the 27th and 28th. My suggestion would be maybe the 20th, which is your normal meeting date.
Yeah, please.
And it would be at 6 o'clock. Now, I don't think we would want to have, we could, depending how desperate somebody wants to get an application. I don't have any now, I think, that would be before you. But we would like to make this meeting really just concentrating on the workshop and the input from the neighborhood on the plan. So if we were to come up with needing to have a meeting in the afternoon, would you have a problem if we did it, if that was necessary, meaning I had an application and they needed to move forward? Okay. I'll play it by ear. Normally,
Yeah, I guess. I was going to bring up something I brought up in the past, and as I mentioned, I'm painfully aware of organizing an organization. And I don't imagine they've made any progress. I guess it's just
no. She's
Hillman
making
and
progress.
some of her neighbors calling themselves a legitimate organization, whereas in fact, as far as I know, they haven't filed any paperwork with anybody, or legally, I don't believe they exist.
I think the association has registered with the state. They did that. I'd have to check on that, but that's a good point. She's supposedly meeting with her neighbors. I've given her a list of the property owners and all that, And so that's, that's up to her, okay, to do that. I mean, that's always been an issue with these kind of groups, whether they do, who do they represent? I mean, we've already had talks about that. There's a lot of property owners that have never been contacted, don't know about it. And so I think that's something to, just to be aware of at the meeting and ask direct questions. And hopefully, I mean, we'll advertise this and all that if they're to get interest and make sure people show up. I mean, I would like to have the churches there. I'd like to have other property owners. So we'll make it, open to people, and we'll see what kind of participation we get. I think have I given you a copy of the draft report on the element yet?
We have some neighborhood information.
Yeah.
Okay, I just couldn't remember. But anyway, if you follow my drift, if you haven't gotten it, we'll do it again.
Okay.
I'm going to take one more look at it.
Or
It's
put it
like-
on the website or something. We can get it.
I could put it on the website. That's true. Okay, it's been a while since I looked at it. I've got to get some GIS
I know I've got
maps.
a little book of
Okay.
draft work that you
Okay, well,
given
I'll
us.
make sure I do
Yeah.
it then. Okay. You'll notice the way I wrote these things, I kind of leave it open, that I'm very aware that just because we have a bunch of activists, you don't want to just move helter-skelter forward with something that we don't have the support. If you don't have the neighborhood support here, the property stakeholders, it's really a waste of time. That's always been an issue when you get into these kind of things.
There's a small group leading forward, and
That's
the
right.
masses find out, and then they object and have
Yeah,
to change of direction.
and not that it isn't good to have a small group
You
doing
have to have
this, but
leadership.
you need to bring other people along through this process. And so I think that's something, but I will make sure I get that at least on the website for you. And I'm going to send you another copy to make sure you all have it.
And
Okay.
Are you going to invite all the stakeholders, or is she?
Well, we're going to do I'm going to let her involve that, but we're going to advertise it, and I'll talk to her about it. I mean, we could send out, it'll cost us money.
That's expensive.
It's expensive, yeah. I mean, it'll cost us some money to send. I forgot how many property owners we're dealing with. But I'm going to
Would
talk
signage, would local signage be more appropriate there? Maybe to put a few signs up saying so and so meeting.
And we could do that.
And maybe as
have
opposed
to
to
say
spending all
where.
that money.
Well, that's not a bad idea because we do have that ability to put those signs out there, but it still costs money to. So the signs still cost money.
Okay.
I'll take a look at it, but we'll try to advertise this and whatever is worthy.
Tim, Sherry was asking where you were going to hold that. Did you?
Oh no, I haven't got to that yet.
Okay.
Yeah. It's going to be at the community churches offered their facilities.
That's nice.
Is that
I remember
okay?
saying that was a
Yeah,
possibility.
and they have a nice facility there.
So we're looking at having it on the 20th.
20th. I'll contact Linda and make sure that's
20th of March.
20th of March at 6. Okay,
Bunch of
which is a Thursday.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Let's see. The other thing is, I'm finally making some progress working on revising definitions and land use categories and all that. It is not fun. I want to tell you that. You think reading that budget's boring? You should do this. I mean, I have to go. I got to go to Peggy every now and then just to get my sanity back. Hey, Peggy, am I doing the right thing? And I change my mind every other week. Every other day. Wow, this isn't right. Better do this.
And that's why I asked him to talk to you all.
Yeah. And I said, that's probably not a bad idea. And we're trying to update it. A lot of these, the 1980 stuff that they've grafted things on there. So we've got inconsistencies all over. In fact, if you look at the industrial zoning district has more stringent requirements than commercial zoning. I mean, whoever wrote that, it's really weird. There's stuff, and there are things in there that we couldn't even administer, much less enforce. So I think there's things we'll clean out. One of the ideas I had, and which I think works well, and I think most modern code preparers kind of recommend, would be to have a matrix up front in your code that details your land uses that are allowed by district, rather than individual districts. And that's where our problems start. Every time we do that, then you have inconsistencies all over the place. But to have a matrix which basically says, like, single family, you have X's where it's allowed, where it's a conditional, you have a C, where it's a special permit of this and all that. I think that's the route we're going to go on that.
No question.
And it would do a lot of cutting up back in the back. One of the things that, in looking at it, I'm trying to follow our basic format here. For instance, we have very general classifications for a lot of land uses. retail, sales, and services. That covers both personal service and retail. It doesn't, other than where they have some exclusions in the definitions, it covers everything. Some codes, and if you've looked at the county code, they go into a little more detail by use. They'll say beauty shops, costs. When we go that route, if we go there, it's not a bad route because it cleans up a lot of things, but our route's more flexible and it's not really caused a problem. But we would be similar to what the county has, which is always a good, thing to have consistency because, a lot of people are working across the boundaries. But it does, every time you change those kind of things, you bring up more people come out of the woodwork that then have other issues. So right now, I'm going to just move along on what I propose to do. But if along the way you would like us to look more in detail, we can do that and to go to a specific. Unless you have druthers right now, I'm hitting you right off the. Okay, I have a copy of what the county
Tell me which direction
does.
you want to go and what you're.
Well, I don't know. That's what I was just telling you. Every day I change my mind. And
there's pros and
I mean,
cons on
and
both
part of
sides.
it is being part of my problem is that I'm just trying to make sure there's only one of me, and I want to make sure I can get this done, and I'm just not, So right now I'm going to move along on what I'm doing, the approach I'm doing, and see how that works. And I think I want to get to a point where I can at least start having preliminary workshops with you to go over this stuff before I go too far.
That would be my suggestion.
Yeah, I don't want to go
Just
too.
give us kind of a little outline of
Yeah.
where you're going, and if the board disagrees with that, then we'll identify it, so you don't get too much down the road, but get backtrack.
And so I do have like definitions for a lot of land uses, but not all land uses have to be defined. Basically, and that's one of the nice things about the county code. They do define stuff, but most every land use has a land use code, whether it's the North American system or the one done by the American Planning Association, the land base. So there are ways to identify that, and we bring that up in there. So I'm gonna continue to work on this, and we'll have a kind of preliminary meeting, which I'll probably identify. Maybe we'll go over some of the definitions and show you how it would work just on a small scale to start with. And if I'm on the wrong track and you need me to change, I certainly can do that. Does that sound reasonable?
The premise that you're talking about right now going forward is to kind of model it a little closer to the county type system? Is that what you're saying?
Well, yes. I mean, the county has a matrix system, which we're going to.
Is that where you're kind of leaning
I want to go
toward?
to a matrix system. The question is, how detailed do you want the matrix system?
So it's just the detail of that we're looking at.
Yeah, well, right now, I'm going to do with more following our general approach that we have in our land use is cleaning up some of it. For instance, we have public utilities. That's allowed in every district. Well, you could put a wastewater treatment plant in the middle of a single-family neighborhood. See, so we need, and the county defines it. So I'm bringing some of the county definitions in.
What kind of?
For instance, call that a heavy or intense utility. Yeah. You don't want to have those in your, in your neighborhood.
Yeah.
Right.
But you want to have the smaller things that go in there because they fit in the neighborhood. So those are some of the things I'm cleaning up in the thing.
And they're necessary.
They're necessary, like community services.
Yeah.
We got fire stations. Well, you know what?
You need them sometimes.
You got to have them, but maybe we should call it community services and have a litany of different things that
Like
fit as a
this,
community
this,
service.
okay.
So that's what we're getting.
And they're only
into.
examples, and you can still go beyond that, but that
Sure.
gives you a flavor
Yeah,
for what's
and I think
expected or allowed.
the only thing and the other thing we get into, so we would have this matrix up front, but in the individual districts, you may have some conditions on those kind of uses, okay? Because we do have, in some districts, you have to be in an enclosed building. Others, there's no problem there, but you can't have all that information up in the matrix. You would have that later in the thing, and I think that'll work that way. So I'm working through this myself. And some of the uses, I think we should look at the same time of whether they make any sense, get rid of them. So we don't want to go too far in that because the thing I want to make sure we're not creating a lot of nonconformities or problems out there as we go through it. So I'm being very careful when I do this, okay? So if that's all right, Mr. Chairman, I just want you to know where I am at this.
All right.
What I was going to do, though, I'm going to just show you a copy from the county, their code. It just gives you an idea of the detail. And this is like personal services. If you look and see how they do it.
Great. Yep.
Okay. And just some of you may not be aware of that.
Seen it.
Okay. See, and
Mr.
ours
Chairman?
would be very similar, but it would be our type of our uses, and very familiar with what you see now. Okay?
Could we go back to the calendar for a minute? On February 20th, did we cancel our regular meeting?
February, March?
I said we would cancel it unless we had to have a
March
work
12th.
item, okay?
March.
No,
Okay.
he's saying our February 20th.
Oh, I'm sorry. No, it's March.
Okay.
Yeah.
So tentatively, the March 20th meeting is canceled. I got confused because I looked up the 20th and it was.
They're both the 20th.
Yeah, 'cause
Isn't that
they're 20
confusing? I
days.
know, yeah.
But, okay, so it's March 20th. And if we were to have a meeting, would it be immediately prior to the
Well, I
And would
think
it
we
be
could
at the
work it out,
church,
but
or-
it'll be at two different look. I mean,
Yeah.
the problem is we don't have TV and the media if we're like this community. We'll have Sherry there. She's so happy.
Well, that was going to be my second question. Would there be
You
a
can Skype
possibility of getting it taped? Not for live broadcast necessarily, but for rebroadcast?
That's not in my budget.
Yeah, I don't.
Right. I'll need to check with Tammy on that.
Yeah.
If it's not necessary, we would postpone that meeting or delay
Yes,
it.
that's what I'm saying. We're only going to
If we have
call
a
it.
6 p.m. meeting, then that
Right.
might be appropriate.
Right, but I was talking about possibility of taping the 6 p.m.
Why?
Well-
It's open to the public. I mean, it's not.
I
It's a
I mean, there's
workshop.
no
It's a workshop.
requirement to.
No, but
in
it's a
any
workshop.
case, but sure, it's not required, but people might want to refer back to it or
Well,
watch
it'll
it
be
if they
taped. It
weren't
just
able
won't
to.
be televised. You can listen to it. You won't be able to watch it.
Yeah.
We'll
Oh,
record
you're saying
the
there'd be an audio?
an audio of it. Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
No video.
All right.
Okay, that's good.
Okay. I'm also moving forward with. I'm going to do this at the same time because this is driving me nuts. Would be working on the wetlands and the because of the lagoon and stuff. So to come in and look at particularly on buffers in the wetlands and all that we need to bring into the code. So I'm going to work on that and try to get that moving along too.
In what form will that come to us? Would it?
It'll come in. We'll do a workshop format, but it'll be in a regulatory. I'll probably have the options or regulations. Proposed draft of regulations for you to look at.
And this will be for the entire city then?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. It'll be in our.
It'll mostly stormwater management and what?
It'll be back in the stormwater management. We will be just making revisions in that part of the code.
Okay.
Okay.
Not the amount, the collection number, that criteria isn't, you're not trying to modify that, you're trying to modify the
No, we're
facilities,
just.
but we have to do it under what circumstances?
Well, we're looking at particularly buffers along streams and any of the waterways that we require that. I mean, filter strips and all that. It's not.
For new development only, or?
Well, we'll probably have triggers for existing development. That's always been a problem in stormwater.
Yeah.
Is
That's a big one.
it's really retrofitting and that's a problem with the city. Everything was developed before you had all this,
Yeah.
and so we're implementing new regulations on top, and we do have thresholds. Once you cross that, for instance, you just heard one with the theater guild.
Right.
I didn't get into. I'm not so certain they're taking care of all 1.5 inch, but they are of the additional 1.5 for that 600. There's difference how this thing's applied, and the whole idea is most of this has to be retrofitted where you have existing development. New development certainly could be brought right there to,
Right.
but we'll have to have that in.
Any significant permitting now would require you to bring your stormwater management up to the current levels.
Yes, we have
So you have
if you
that
look
in
in the
place.
code, you'll see it.
But
We have
may
that.
require a difference in what you have to do to bring it up to code by making our code more stringent. Is that what you're saying?
Well, we're really looking more at after runoff and how that's handled. Okay, whether and that's always been a
Directly in
concern.
the drain, you have to have some
Yeah,
control
I mean,
on your property or something.
yes, you'll have to have some control. I mean, we do have swales and stuff now, but we don't have a lot of this stuff can still run off. But for instance, it could go right into the lagoon without having. Normally, you would have some sort of filter strip. Well, like Chesapeake Bay, a lot of these do that. That filters any water that would go into the thing. So we'll have to look at that.
Yeah, you talked about the baffles and other devices that Monty's installing and different outfalls, but would it make sense at some point and at some scale to have a project maybe like this, maybe this would be too small, but to have those kind of devices on a point source? In other words, have a baffle or a filter for where this system's drainage goes into the outfall?
Well, I think usually there's the economies of scale. Remember, these things have to be maintained. Those baffles and centrifuge, everything to separate the sediment and all that, it takes maintenance. So it's not just, so they'd have to look at that. That's why when I mentioned having a storm drainage district or something that they can look at linking regional things up and maybe require that. But usually they're more handling numerous properties rather than having
Sebastian
it.
has something like that. I have
Yeah.
a tax district for stormwater. But
Yeah, and
I
that's
don't
a
know how
storm
it
drainage
works,
district. Yeah, I in my house in the Keys, I pay $60 a year for storm drainage. It's a non-ad valorem right on top of my house.
One of the things
I don't have any storm.
that is in the residential side of this thing, most we can do is retention a little longer before we release, and I
Right.
think that is the.
But we have properties that are right along Lagoon that.
And they generally it's just direct runoff into the lagoon.
Yeah, well, they're not. Yeah, and we
But
need
it's not
to.
supposed to be.
Yeah, I mean, the older development, you'll see that. I mean, or you'll have storm drains and the water. That needs to. So we're going to look at those kind of things. I have to work with the. I don't have. I mean, I want to work with the public works guys. I mean, they're the ones that do the reviews and all that, and make sure we're all on the same page.
Okay.
Okay.
Your insight will be important too.
But I'll probably bring Bill along. Bill's the guy doing all the estimates and everything.
Tim, any other matters?
No, I think you've heard enough from me today.
Does the board members have any matters?
Just a question, a follow-up on you need to revise that code that helped develop the Theater Guild to start off.
I'm going to do it as part of this whole effort we're doing now because we'll be into every one of the districts to do these revisions. It's a major effort. Okay, and I'll take care of it at that time because they're taken care of now. They'll be fine.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And we recognize them, but we need to change it.
The last thing I have then, I would like just enter into the record that Don was excused from absence today. Okay, and so was Joe. If having nothing else, I'm looking for an adjournment. Already.
Are we ever going to get another second alternate? Are there still no applications? Do you know, Sherry?
We are going to have an interview session coming up with the council. I don't know how many applicants we have for the
There were
board.
2 or
but
3, I
there's-
thought.
Yeah. It's in a couple of weeks, so.
Anything else? No.
Thank
Seeing
you
nothing
very
else,
much.
we adjourn.
Thanks, council.
Thank you.